So the bas-reliefs we just looked at represents the churning of the Sea of Milk, a mythological scene from Vishnu lore. The gods and the demons used the serpent Vasuki as a cord wound around the holy Mount Mandra, which rises from the Sea of Milk. By pulling alternately on the serpent, together they churn the primordial ocean in order to produce Amrita, the elixir of immortality. So that's what that long naga is. They're pulling on the naga, the serpent Vasuki. Here's another wall of inscriptions that doesn't have any explanation. But these characters here with the flowing garment off to the left, I've seen before. Here we certainly have an important person. Notice the naga he's got crossing his lap. And he himself seems to have more than one arm and more than one hand. This is interesting for the use of animals. It appears to be like crocodiles there, almost standing vertically surrounded by fish. More of the same here. Turtles in there, some kind of curious monster. A whole mix then of fact and fiction. And here the point seems to be all these men used to support this railing or whatever it is, very much like the bridge entering into Angkor Wat that we saw. And here we've got remodeling, so the area is closed off to us now. Remember that the edifices that we're seeing were the great religious monuments because of their importance made out of stone. Whereas the millions of people, or the million people that were here, and all the supporting structures, for them, including administration, were wood, because they were not as important as religious, and probably would have completely surrounded this temple. Now I don't know, it's possible that this was all park grounds. It's also possible that it looked like Bangkok. It's interesting, the French botanist Henri Mouhot that rediscovered Angkor Wat in the 1850s, initial multi-decade effort to assess, research, and document and conserve the temple complex. 1908, the French established the Conservation d'Angkor, which began interventions in the gallery in 1950. These included documents and stone placement, complete disassembly of the structure, installation of a drainage system, and reinforcements of foundations and retaining walls. When the Civil War in Cambodia broke out in the 1970s, they were forced to abandon, which caused that deterioration that we noticed. It's interesting, the French have been most proactive in archaeology, at least since the time that Napoleon went to Egypt. And in fact, dominated the archaeology of Egypt for the next century. Here you see how he's able to use air to remove the dirt and debris on that surface and get down to the original surface without damaging it much. Interesting, this huge movable structure that allows them to work on all parts of it quickly. Now I think we get to go inside the temple now. Notice here's the result of using that airbrush. So this should be very beautiful when it's done. Nicely restored. I have to give the French the credit due for its major role in the restoration of these monumental world heritage sites. Large wall section of engravings. Some color left, but there's no description of it. I'll pick up on the detail that I find interesting, but here's a horse naga pulling the chariot. but also a horse and also an elephant were present at this battle. Notice the elephant doing his work. So when you see the movies like Star Wars and some of these others where there are these huge, fantastical battle animals from other planets or wherever, that's not without historical allusion. Certainly when the Italian army, or Roman army, first encountered Hannibal's Carthage elephants, fear must have been dramatically magnified in a military force that heretofore had felt little competition. And still another giant wall of inscription, not inscription, but of relief and stories. Now here I seem to sense a difference in style. Notice the elongation, if you will, of this elephant. But notice also the detail of the harnessing. And it carries, it appears, 3 armed soldiers, including the helmet. What did these orbs represent? One, it looks like, is on the top of a human form. Here it looks like a hippopotamus is used as a war machine. Is that factually true? Now here we can see that the battle rages, hand-to-hand combat, as well as men to the side with spears poised to do what damage they can in the melee or melee. Here a slumped-over man appearing to have 3 spears in him. And here, curiously, 2 men, the man on the left holding a horse in the air with one hand by the horse's foot, and the horse on the right the same way. Notice that the charioteer has 2 arrows in him. And here the warrior god or whatever, I can see red, I think, on his armor. And then noticing this bird-like creature beneath him. I see red on his head armor and his breast and on his lower thighs and ankle. Here a lion type of creature. It looks like he's just proudly part of the forward advancing parade of soldiers. Circumnavigate. Okay, very much more of the same. I wonder if these originally had this polished bronze look. It really is very pretty. Okay, above the battle scene we have the Naga horse fighting. And then above that, a bird-like creature. See its clawed foot right on the chest of the Naga bird horse. And then in its wings you see it going up there. And then it's kind of ostrich head at the top. It almost looks like it carries on its back a device for, like the elephant would, for carrying that warrior. And here a Naga is apparently the motive force for this chariot and its warrior. And it looks like a Mammut with the reins coming out of the Naga's mouth. Here it looks like this warrior is forcing the horse's head up and thereby disrupting the efforts of that charioteer and his warrior. And here a person about to lose their head, perhaps. Here another very elaborate bird war machine. I have now circumnavigated this terrace level, or temple level, and looked at all of the reliefs on it. And I think I will stop now and save going into the temple for early morning.